Hi, welcome back to my channel. This tutorial is to show you how to do the garter stitch. So right now I have already knitted and purled across, creating this beautiful, using this beautiful yarn. Again, if you've watched my previous video, you would already know this, but this is the yarn that I am using. You can pick it up at your local yarn shop or online. It is beautiful yarn. I love working with it. I would have to say, I always say this now that I think about it, but I would have to say this is one of my favorite yarns. And I always look for the word superwash merino wool. Merino is super soft. It is not itchy at all. It's so nice. It keeps its shape. It's stretchy. It just makes really good garments. But the superwash part is, I'm a mother of 3 and stuff ends up in the washer. I try to take care of my stuff. I'm sure if it was just me or we were a little bit older, I would be able to maintain all of those things like hand washing stuff, but some stuff just ends up in that washer, and I've had stuff ruined before. And anyway, so this is all the information on this yarn. Love it, recommend it, buy it, use it. Okay, I think it's the perfect size for beginners as well when you're first learning to knit. It can range between $15 to $30. I know I've spent $30 on it before, $35 one time in a yarn shop, and it was worth every penny at the time to me, because I went home and immediately created something. All right, so like I said, this one is the garter stitch. Right now I've got stockinette kind of hanging on my needles, but the garter stitch is actually a little bit easier in my opinion, because all you have to do is knit. And this is what I teach my students the first time whenever we're learning how to do something. So I'm going to assume you already know how to cast on. To do the garter stitch, which is it is the basic stitch. So all you do is just knit. So knit, stitch, place your needle through, making that X, loop it around and pull through. Loop it around and pull through. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, and I'm going to move the yarn to my right hand, and I'm going to knit using the method where you're kind of wrapping the yarn. So this is what most learn in the beginning. This is how I teach most of my students. And then I go home, I tell them to go home and practice continental, and some do it and some don't, and I'm fine with whatever, because you will be as fast as you want to be. And this is not about, like, knitting is not about product, and it's not about it's about creating something, but it's about how you feel, what makes you happy. And so that's how I feel about it. Like, you do what makes you feel comfortable, do what makes you love it. Okay. And so some of my students that I've taught have, like, they just refuse to do continental, which is totally, like I said, is totally fine. And they are just as fast. Like, some students are just so fast with that. I am not. And the reason is that I just don't transition well. Like, so continental works best for me. I need it to be all laid out and ready for me to go as I'm going through. So anyways, now we've turned our work. Now, if we were doing stockinette, we would purl this row. But because we're doing a garter stitch, that squishy stitch, we are just going to knit. And like I said, this is like one of the first stitches that I'll teach my students, because it practices the knit stitch. Now I'm moving my yarn back to my left hand so that I can work through this kind of quickly. But all you're doing is knitting back and forth. And it is a great way to learn and get more comfortable with the knit stitch. So I would highly recommend, if you are new, I would just practice this garter stitch back and forth. Now, why would you want to learn the garter stitch? It is used to make, I don't know, we've made scarves before, triangle scarves, and I've got one student that's made scarves. It makes it really squishy, and it's really bouncy when you're done with it, and it's just a nice stitch. It's kind of like if you are learning how to knit, learn how to do the garter stitch. All right, now I'm turning my work, and now you can see the little bumps starting on this knit side. Well, we're just going to knit the row again. So we're going to knit right across. Okay, so I'm going to go through, and as we're going through it, you'll start to see the garter stitch kind of pop out, and that's what you want. You want it to be kind of popping out. And some of my students that are brand new to knitting, like they'll go and they'll start stitching, or they'll start doing the knit stitch, and they do it perfectly, but they don't have their gauge right. Like they don't have their gauge set, the tension in which they hold the yarn. So it doesn't come out like the way mine does when I'm showing them how to do something. Don't get frustrated with that. Like that's just the nature of it. You just have to get comfortable with the yarn, and what you have to do is just practice and holding the yarn and how much tension you want to hold it. And there we go. So in this tutorial, that's basically it. You just knit back and forth. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I know if you have any questions, you can message in the chat. You can also just ring that bell, subscribe, do all those good things to help me and support me through this journey. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And thank you for coming and joining me. And if you've used this yarn before, just message in the chat and let me know about it. Whether you like it, maybe some of your favorite colors, or if you have something else that you want to share, that would be wonderful. I love getting comments in the chat. Also, so by supporting my channel, please subscribe. All right, see you later. Bye, Fiber Art friends.